We cannot look appropriately into the present or the future without first understanding our past. But the viewpoint is essential. What viewpoint do we want to listen to? That of the conquerors or that of the conquered? History is normally told by the winners. But is this the real story? I think I fell with Egyptology a long time before I realized I wanted to become an Egyptologist. I remember that I was on a school trip to the Cairo Museum, and there I remember while we were going around at the top floor, I saw the mummification lab. And there was Dr. Nasri Iskandar, Abir, Umayma, Marwazeni standing, unwrapping the mummy of Thutmose III because they were conserving it. I think, as far as I remember, they were conserving the toes of Thutmose III. And they saw this young student in her school uniform just peeking at what they were doing. So they called me in. And when they called me in, I looked at the mummy of Thutmose III, and for 5 minutes, I was just face to face with him. There were no glass cases, nothing. And I could just see Thutmose's in face. And it felt like this meeting with a person from the past. And I think this is when I truly fell. This is a biliteral, so it's an E. This is an N, S, T, and Sh. So we have to look at what groups of sounds create words and then decipher the word. So it's like an M is not an owl. An M is the sound M. The heart here is not a heart. It's a biliteral. It has two phonograms, so it's Eep. So all these words together here, for example, to make your heart regenerate or something. And you can see also the name of the king here. All names of kings are in this cartouche. So Teti. I've taken part in different excavations that had interesting discoveries. I also remember that during my field school in Khaga Oasis with Professor Salima Ikram, we discovered an intact pot of cheese that dated to the Roman period. I've never seen so much cheering for a pot of cheese in my entire life. My real discovery that I'm really proud of is when I found a 400-page box folder of the negotiations of the bust of Nefertiti since 1925 until 1947 at the National Archive of Egypt. I had previously taken part in a film on repatriation, and I remember how the representative of the Berlin Museums, Herr Patzinger, said emphatically that Egypt never officially asked for the bust of Nefertiti. I knew this was not true, but I never had the evidence. When I first saw the title of this box file in the database, I did not think it was that. It had the title, The German Archaeological Institute in Egypt.
When I ordered this box file and the one after it, I stood immobile, unable to open it. I knew it had everything I have been looking for years. It took me around 30 minutes to gather my courage and open it. I've copied all its contents in 9 whole months and asked for special scans for the important documents. The contents change the Western colonialist narrative about the bust of Nefertiti and shows the amazing efforts of many Egyptian officials that were shattered first by Hitler and second by the tripartite army, who were afraid that this would bring objects to be repatriated, and they were afraid for their own museums back home. This has been my best discovery because it did not only answer my research questions, but it also gave me the voice to be able to contest the repatriation of the bust of Nefertiti.
This is the place where the famous bust of Nefertiti is thought to have been found. This is here the workshop and the house of Tutmosis the sculpt during the Amarna period, and this is where Borchardt probably found the most beautiful statue for Nefertiti, and of course he hid it and then managed to trick the Egyptian officials to take it to Germany. So as part of my research on restitution and repatriation, I always come here and I always bring students and I always think of what is missing. And what is missing from here is actually a bust at the Neues Museum in Berlin. Aswan is this fascinating place. It's the oldest civilization that we have attested in all Egypt that started in Napta. Before anywhere else around the Nile, civilization around the Nile Valley has started here. Then, of course, it progressed the pre-dynastic period in the Old Kingdom, in the New Kingdom, in the late period, in the Coptic period, and Islamic period. So you can see actually an active line of timeline in Aswan. Aswan has always comes from the root word of ancient Egyptian sono, which means the market. So Aswan here was this fantastic market that was a sort of a melting pot between all the cultures around. So you find the Nubians, the Basharis, the Abadas, the Nile Valley people, the Gaafras, the Bijas. Even when 19th century, when Ibrahim Pasha came with his full-blown army and Albanian mercenaries, he left the Albanian mercenaries here going back. In a way, I feel like the women held the power of ancient Egypt the last. It's like this was the last resort of ancient Egypt that was kept by women. And I usually see how women carry the heritage along, because it's the women who know the stories, who know the mythology, who know the intangible heritage, who know the different handcrafts, who know the different secrets, who have their own little magical spells that they've inherited from their great-grandmothers. I think being here in Aswan and teaching many girls in my college, I kind of see that in a way they're also rebuilding the cult of Isis, but the more intellectual cult of the science and the technology that was developed within the walls of these temples. And in a way, I look at all of us as still daughters of Isis. Aswan was this place filled with culture in a sort of a very cosmopolitan way. And I think this has created the magic that we all experience in it today. I don't know of anyone who came to Aswan and did not enjoy it to the max. And I think that's why When I was offered the job to create the College of Archaeology and Cultural Heritage in 2016, I couldn't say no. It was far away from home. I had to leave my almost 2-year-old every week to be able to come and work here. And I've never looked back. I think it has been one of the best experiences of my life, creating a college for archaeology and cultural heritage that uses state-of-the-art curricula and technologies and research methodologies to train young students from Upper Egypt. And we also have students from Cairo and Alexandria here in Aswan, where they do not only learn about their past, the archaeology or the history of the past, they also learn about the heritage of how this past has meaning in the present and in the future. Egyptology started off as a Western science. It started after the Napoleon campaign lost against the combined army of the British and the Ottomans. And of course, the French, being so proud, wanted to pass off that such military defeat is actually a cultural victory. So I think they started Egyptology on the wrong foot. This was not a discipline that started for wanting to understand the past of ancient Egypt. Yes, this was part of it, but most of it was French military propaganda against the rest of Europe, showing them that without their savants in Egypt, no one would know anything about ancient Egypt. And I think this is what fueled the continuous rivalry between European states on who can get more objects from Egypt, who will publish more, who will have the bigger museum. Is it the Louvre or the British Museum? And this plundered Egypt. I am truly interested in not just restituting and repatriating the objects in the different museums, because these objects have become symbolic of the power of such cultural institutions over the anthropological other, whether it's African, Egyptian, ancient Near East. So I want to break this cycle of power, not just by repatriating the objects back to their indigenous communities, such as here in Minya, they had the bust of Nefertiti. I want to repatriate the agency to the Egyptians to produce knowledge about their past through changing the discipline philosophy of Egyptology.
I want to see Egyptology democratized. I want to liberate Egyptology from the ivory towers of academics and universalist Western museums to become relevant to Egyptians' everyday life. Egyptology needs to evolve from the obsession of the gold, the mummies, and the secrets to a social science that's relevant and alive in the daily life of modern Egyptians. Objects held as hostages, such as the bust of Nefertiti, the Rosetta Stone, and many others, must come home where they were snatched from. Repatriation is not only about returning of the objects, but also restitution of the agency to the Egyptians to produce knowledge about our past in order to propel our future.